This is Entrepreneur Studio with Patrick Bryant, brought to you by SC Biz News, the Harbor Entrepreneur Center, Code and Trust, trusted co-founders in tech, and our sponsor, Harbor Wealth Management Group.
Shay Houser with us in the Next Center in Greenville, where you've had an office, you've been a big part of mentoring here at Next, and huge exits in the Greenville community. You're currently the co-founder of Deal Strategies with some other great Greenville entrepreneurs. Right now, today, if you had to point to one time in your life, in all of the entrepreneurial journey that you've had, what is the greatest moment that you're like, oh, that's when I learned the hardest thing, that or the best thing? That's the moment that I can vividly remember.
Geez, there were so many. I think this sounds maybe a little self-centered or selfish, but probably the one that made as big an impact as any others is when, after building Nuvox Communications, I left Nuvox in 2003.
But big exit for you.
It was not a big exit for me.
Oh,
I got recapitalized.
Oh, okay.
It was post-dot-com boom, and Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan, KKR were my largest investors. And we had to raise $50 million, and to continue to grow the company. The board had been telling us, just keep growing, keep going, keep going. We got all the money in the world. We're Goldman Sachs. Yep, y'all do. Well, as we ran low on cash and they went to put in the next $50 million, they decided to facilitate a 1-for-100 reverse stock split.
Oh.
So I went from 2.7 million shares at about $12 when we filed for the IPO to 18 months later, 27,000 shares at $1. And I almost fainted in the board meeting.
Yeah.
I didn't even understand. I couldn't even hear what was going on. It was so much for me to take. And ultimately left the company over it. I just said, I can't be a part of anybody that's going to treat the founders of the company like this. I can't be a part of this. Yeah. And I left. When I left, I fortunately remained on good terms with the management team and was able to acquire a subsidiary of the company that we had bought years before. And at that point, I was essentially bankrupt. I mean, I was 32 years old, 3 kids, married, and had put everything I had ever made on the previous companies into Nuvox. Yeah. So when we got recapitalized, I got wiped out. I mean, I just got wiped out. So when I was able to acquire the subsidiary, I had no equity. I mean, literally, I went to 5 people in town here in Greenville who backed me and got a small line of credit from a bank to get the acquisition done. It was a fixer-upper. We had about 120 employees, about $5 million in revenue. I sold it 5 years later, about $15 million in revenues and 50 employees. And we closed the transaction, the sale of that business, within days of Bear Stearns failing. And the bank, my line of credit was going to renew at the end of May, and everything was super tight. Of course, you remember the world back in 2008. It was just a basket case. And I got that transaction closed. I sold the company to a NASDAQ-listed billion-dollar company, and I remember the wire coming in. And it's not that I care about money, because that's not the case. It was the deep breath that I was able to take and just know that I had put everything into that previous company. I had created hundreds and ultimately 1,000 jobs with the other management team members and got nothing out of it.
Right.
And ultimately 3 co-founders committed suicide from that, including my best friend. But to get that next win to where I got back on my feet and I had confidence and faith in my ability again. Yeah. That was it. It was I did it. I got here, and I'm on stable ground again. And because I felt unstable for years after going through that.
100%. How can you not? Right.
And just it gave me faith in myself. Gave me faith in the system that this can be a win. And I think it gave me confidence to just keep going and I'm going to start another one, and I'm going to start another one. I'm going to keep starting them because that's what I do.
Right.
And I don't know. It was something about that it meant a lot to me.
Of
It
course.
it meant a lot to like just, I'm back.
And I can do this,
Yes,
right?
yeah.
I think there's something just incredibly powerful in that story of finding your own confidence and your own voice and your own
Absolutely.
ability to
Yeah.
keep doing.
And that's
the-
what it
the
was.
thing,
That's
you
what it
know?
was. It was more than anything else. It was such a traumatic experience for a lot of us to go through that, having built something to literally have it torn apart, knowing how many jobs and how much value we created. And that company sold for $625 million. And I got a goose egg out of it. But but to rebuild after that felt good. It felt like I can do this. And it's not an experience I ever want anybody that I'm working with to ever have to go through, but it's an experience that'll stick with me forever.
100%.
It'll be there forever.
Well, no, and the entire thing makes you the great entrepreneur that you are.
It makes me resilient, and it also know I know how serious entrepreneurship can be.
Yeah.
Like I know what the fallout can be, and I don't like to share that story often, but it's reality. And startups are hard.
Right.
It's not easy to do this,
No,
and
it's not easy at all.
it's a full contact body sport, and you gotta be willing to get up and do it again.
But
I love it. I wouldn't trade it for anything. I wouldn't trade it for anything because it's so rewarding to work with other people and create jobs and just everybody come around something to go build it together. I think it's amazing.
You've given so much to this community. You've given us the gift of that vulnerability. Thanks for sharing
Absolutely.
that tough time.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate it.